Hi there, it's Nina with Walla Stamping. Thank you for joining me today. This is the project that I'm going to share with you. It is a little box that I created to hold 4 Christmas gift tags. Now I'm going to be showing you how to make all 4 of these cards as well as the box and the medallion on top. So this could take a little while, so there may be some parts of this tutorial that I'm going to speed through just for the sake of time because I don't want it to be 45 minutes long. So when you open up this little box, inside you have all of these little gift tags, and like I said, I've made them more into a card rather than just a tag, but I attached the little ribbon here so that you could tie it or stick it onto the package that you're going to be giving to someone. So this is card number 1, card number 2, number 3, and number 4. So as you can see, I have 4 different styles. These 2 are somewhat similar, but these 2 are totally different. Very cute. I really like them. Anyone who has a friend that likes to quilt would love getting these Christmas gift tags to attach to the gifts that they're going to be giving away for Christmas. So I'm just going to set these aside for now, and we'll go ahead and get started. So for the first card, you're going to need these items, and all of the cards are going to start out with a piece of Whisper White that is 6.5 inches by 3 1/4. They're going to get folded in half at 3 1/4 and then burnished. So we have that. I have an additional piece of Whisper White that's about 2 inches by about 1 inch, and then I have a piece from the Quilted Christmas 6x6 Designer Series paper stack. I know that I made a gift tag a few weeks ago, right after the holiday catalog came out, and everybody really loved this set. So I wanted to do another project for you. So that being said, I am going to be using the Christmas quilt stamp set along with the Christmas Builder framelit set. Now these can be purchased together as a bundle, and when you purchase them that way, you actually save 10% off the cost. So if this is something you're interested in, you would definitely want to get that in a bundle rather than purchasing them separate, because they work together so well. If you miss any of the measurements or any of the ink colors or supplies that I'm using, I will have a detailed instruction sheet over on my blog underneath the post for this project, so you can go there and get those. I'm going to be using this largest, or this square, the only square, and then this little center part here. So I'm going to lay my Designer Series paper right there. I'm going to outline it with the square first. Make sure that I can see all the tips of this pattern. Then I'm going to take this little framelit, and this is not going to cut out. All it's going to do is make some perforated indentions, or cuts I should say, in the paper, and give it the look of stitching. I'm just going to use my snail to attach this to the front of my card. Then I'm going to take my other piece of Whisper White, my real red ink. I have the word peace from the stamp set right here. I'm going to get that inked up in my real red, and when I stamp it, I'm going to stamp it more toward the left hand side of the paper. Then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut close to the word that I stamped on the top and on the bottom. I'm going to cut that as straight as possible, and then I'm just going to give it a little bannered edge down here by cutting straight up the middle, and then from the edges in and giving myself this banner. Now I'll be using my Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to put a couple of those on the back of this word peace, and then stick that onto my card top. And I'm going to open it up, take my greeting, which says have yourself a merry little Christmas, use my real red again, And this is what I would be stamping in the center of each of the cards, but I'm only going to show you this first one for the sake of time. There we go. Now I'm using my 1/8 inch hole punch, and I'm going to come right down here, just in on the corner, just slightly, punch that out. I'm going to use my solid red ribbon here, and I'm not really going to measure these. I'm just going to snip a piece that's probably about 7, maybe 8 inches long. I'm going to stick my little crochet hook in from the front to the back and pull that little loop through, and then pull my ribbon through that loop. So there is card number 1 done. Then you can just trim those off to be even. So for card number 2, just as with the first one, we're going to start out with that same size card base. Then I have a piece of real red that is 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. I have an additional piece of Whisper White that is 3 by 3. I have a real red and a Dazzling Diamonds that are 2 by 2. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and attach my real red to the front of my card. Now I'm going to take my 3 by 3 piece of Whisper White, and I'm going to be using the 2 little floral shapes out of the stamp set, and I'm going to be using real red for this. First of all, I'm going to stamp my flower down, and I'm just going to stamp that randomly. Next, I'm going to use my basic black, and I'm going to take the outline and stamp around each of these flowers. Then I'm going to use my garden green. I have this cute little star mounted on a block, and I'm going to be stamping that next in my garden green. Then I'm just going to adhere this on top of the real red that I put in place. Next, I'm going to need my Big Shot, and I forgot to tell you, I also have a piece of the little craft foam that you can get at Walmart, Target, any kind of craft store. I'm going to be using both of the flower shapes for this. So to cut out the foam, I'll put the cutout image of the flower and run that through. I'm going to do the same thing with the red. With the Dazzling Diamonds, I'm going to put my outline, or I called it a cutout. I guess I should have called it an outline. This is the cutout piece right here. I'm going to line that up in the center. That looks pretty good. Then run this through. Now to build this up, I'm just going to take my real red and apply some of my multi-purpose liquid glue to the back. I have found that this works best, at least for me, to get something to adhere to this foam. Get that all lined up. Then I'm going to take my Dazzling Diamonds and I'm going to apply my multi-purpose liquid glue to it as well. Then we'll want to stick that down right on top of that real red. I'm going to use one of the medium-sized rhinestones and just stick that right in the center. Now you'll want to choose one of your flowers to stick this right on top of it. I'm going to go with that one right there. So when you're doing your stamping, just be mindful of where you're stamping your flowers somewhat, so that you do have a whole flower somewhere in an eye-pleasing part of the card to stick this down to. And then this one would get stamped on the inside just like the first card did. So there's card number 2 complete. All right, card number 3, again starting with the same card base, 6.5 by 3 1/4 fold and burnish. Then I have a piece of Whisper White that is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and a piece of the Quilted Christmas Designer Series paper that's 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. So let's go ahead and get this attached to the front of my card. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put the ribbon in this card. So now to attach the ribbon for this card, it's going to be a little bit tougher than the first because you're punching through 3 layers of cardstock. So I punched through the first layer first and then fold it closed and use that hole as a guide and punch through the second one, and then just attach your ribbon the same way that we did with the first card. Now we're going to do some stamping again on this card, so I'm going to grab my scrap piece of paper and bring that back in, and we're going to use this large stitched shape outline first, and I'm going to be using my basic black to stamp that with. Next I'm going to use my garden green as well as my real red. So I'm going to take this shape, which is this one here, and then I'll be using that one too. I'm going to dip this one into my real red, and my head might get in the way because I do have to get right over the top of this to be able to see if I'm stamping within those lines. Now I'm going to take the striped one and do that in the garden green. So for this one I'm going to use this die, line that up around my stamped image. I will be using my glue to adhere this one because I want to get it stuck down all close to the edges so that it doesn't flip up or get caught on something and get pulled off. Card number 4, same card base, a piece of the Quilted Christmas Designer Series paper that's 3 1/8 by 3 1/8, crumb cake, just a scrap piece, and gold foil. This is about 1 inch by 2. Let's attach my Designer Series paper to the front of my card, and I just ran out of snail, so I'll just use my multi-purpose liquid glue instead. I'm going to be using a couple of the little embellishments, and they are so adorable. I love, love, love these little embellishments. These are called the Stitched Felt embellishments, and you have a choice of 3. You've got the Christmas tree, the little holly berries and leaves, and then this little star. So I chose the tree and the holly berries to use today, and to stick these on with, I kind of played around with some different adhesives, but I feel like that my Stampin' Dimensionals are going to be my best option for this because I can stick them down on the back of that felt and give it a good press and make sure it's stuck, and then peel that adhesive away, or the adhesive backing rather, and then I'm going to stick this right here, kind of in the sort of the upper left hand corner. Get that stuck down. On this one I'm going to be using the little spool and the needle. The needle I'm going to cut out of the gold foil, and the spool I'm cutting out of the crumb cake. I'm going to use my Fast Fuse adhesive, and I'm going to put a couple pieces on the back of that spool. Then I'm going to be using my solid white baker's twine. I'm going to start out by just attaching that at one end of that spool into that adhesive. Then I'm just going to wrap this string around and around and around. When I've gotten back up to the top, I'm just going to cut off about another 6 to 8 inches. Then I'm going to use a mini glue dot and I'm going to attach that to my card. So I want that spool to go kind of down here in the bottom right corner. So I've got those glue dots there. Stick my spool of thread in there. And then I'm going to be using my mini glue dots to attach it on my card. But what I'm going to do is take my piercing tool and just try to roll that into a long cylinder shape. Then I will place it on top of my card and push my string down into it. And that's how I'm going to do this to get my string to stay stuck in my different areas of my card. And I probably should have cut this a little bit longer than what I did. Alrighty, so there is card number 4. Now let's move on to the box. So for the box, you'll need a piece of Whisper White. This is 10 by 6.5. You'll need another piece that is 2 by 3, a piece of Real Red that is 2 by 3, an additional piece that is 3 1/8 by 3 1/8, and a strip of Garden Green that is 9 1/2 by 1. So we're going to need our Simply Scored scoring tool. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our card base scored. So we're going to put our paper in on the 10-inch side, score at 3/4 of an inch, then at 4 1/4, 5 inches, 8 1/2, and at 9 1/4. Then turn the cardstock so that the 6 1/2 is across the top. Score at 3/4 of an inch and 1 1/2 inches. Turn it to the opposite side and do that again. So that's 3/4 and 1 1/2. Fold and burnish all of your score lines. Now, if you can tell, there are 2 score lines on this end and only 1 on this end. Then I have double score lines here and here. So this section will end up being the top and this will be the bottom. There's a few pieces that we are going to get rid of, and that will be this long rectangle here, this little square, this square, and we'll mimic that over here on this side. Then we're going to keep both of these pieces here and here, but we're going to end up getting rid of both of those squares and both of those squares on this side, as well as these 2 little squares. So let's go ahead and get all this cut. I'm going to start by doing the bottom, and I'm going to cut straight up each of these score lines. I'm going to stop once I reach that second horizontal score line. I'm going to cut these 2 away and cut this little square away. Then I'm going to wedge this piece right here. That'll end up getting tucked to the inside of your box. And I'm going to wedge this little tab right here. So repeat that right here on this other side. So far you have this. Now let's turn our card base around, and we're going to do the same basic thing over here. I'm going to cut straight up both of those those vertical score lines, but I'm going to stop at the first horizontal, get rid of that little square, wedge out this tab. Then on the sides, cut straight up each of those score lines, stopping at the second horizontal. Get rid of this little square right here. And then we're going to also get rid of this long piece right here. Then we'll cut a little wedge in this tab. Cut a wedge right there. Then let's flip it around to the other side and repeat that again. When you're finished, this is what you're going to be left with. Now, I am going to have a drawing of this card base, it will have all of your score lines as well as your cutting lines and your adhesive lines. So let's go ahead and get the adhesive applied to our card base. Now the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to flip this over so that I'm looking at the inside of the box. All of these little tabs I'm going to fold to the inside because they're all going to get adhesive. Now these are going to get adhesive also, but the adhesive for these will actually go on the inside of the tabs rather than the outside. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to not worry about the top of my box at the moment. I'm going to assemble the bottom of my box by attaching all of those little tabs into place first. Then I will fold in those other tabs that we put the adhesive on the inside. I usually like to take my bone folder and rub that back and forth on those pieces to make sure the adhesive has taken hold and to sharpen all of my corners. Then I'll go ahead and assemble the lid of the box. And make sure that that closes nice, and it does. Okay, so our box is complete, and now what we'll want to do is attach the top pieces. So first of all, I'm going to take my Real Red. I'm just going to use my Fast Fuse since I have it here handy. Attach that to the box lid. Then I'm going to attach my Designer Series paper on top of that. And as you can see, I chose a different pattern of the Quilted Christmas Designer Series paper just to give you another look so that you could decide if you like a green top or if you like the other color top that I had chosen. Now we'll do our stamping. I'm going to be using my Real Red ink to do this with, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment that I was using on the inside of all of the cards, which is "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." I'm going to be using my Layering Ovals Framelits dies. I'm going to use the 4th from the smallest plain oval, get that around my sentiment, as well as the 4th from the smallest scalloped oval for my Real Red. I will attach these two together. I'm going to use my Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. What I'm going to do next is take my Garden Green and my box. I'm going to start approximately in the center. The edge of the Garden Green is going to be in the center of my box, and as I wrap it around, I'm just going to do a little pinch on each of those corners so I know where those fold lines are going to be. Once I get that established, I'll remove that from my card or from my box, use my bone folder and sharpen all of those corners. Then I will apply some adhesive right here on one end, and that is going to be on the inside of my cardstock. And this is my belly band. Then wrap that around and put the adhesive side down on top. Take the backing off of my dimensionals and attach that on top of my belly band. Alright, so here are both of my boxes. I like how both of them turned out. I feel personally that the cardstock belly band is going to work more easily than the ribbon belly band because the ribbon is not going to stay in shape when you remove it. So putting it back on is going to be a little more of a challenge than with the cardstock belly band. It is going to keep its shape when you slide it off, and it's going to make that easier to reapply to the box. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial today and that this will inspire you to make a Quilted Christmas gift tag gift set to give to a friend as a gift. And if you like this video tutorial, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up. Remember that I'm going to have the measurements, the supplies, a detailed instruction sheet with images over on my blog, so be sure to hop on over to wallastamping.com so you can print that out for yourself. And I want to thank you for stopping by today. I do hope that you did enjoy this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you're not going to miss any of my future video tutorials for paper crafting. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter as well over on my blog. I send out exclusive tutorials once a month to my subscribers. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll talk to you soon.